if we want to ensure that an emerging economy succeed, remain competitive and sustainable, then it has to be to a quantum leap. And AI is, of course, the answer for now. For that matter, transformation, digital transformation. Now, but there are concerns we have to address. First, the digital divide. We can't talk about economy, Madani, or Madani economy, which talks about trust, humanity, justice, democratization of access, if we do not take into consideration that all the measures of opportunities are given to the urban, rural, and the heartland. It requires an additional infrastructure investments, but I don't think we can avoid that. So which means a concerned digital divide, what we term as a democratization of access to these new instruments and facilities. Secondly, the other concern is issue of ethics. We are a different society. Islam is the majority. We have Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, and we want to attain some principle of humanity, values, and ethics. And therefore, the issue of data protection, the input that we provide or place into AI is pertinent, which means upskilling, getting a core of our competent young professionals to be able to understand and involve themselves in the entire planning and also strategizing the need. And I think we've moved in that direction, then it gives meaning to development, progress, and digitalization. Our concern is, will be addressed if we deal with these issues, which means a massive effort to upskill and train our young professionals in this field and benefiting from all industry, or which means West and East, with the concerns addressed. Should you therefore confine your support base or infrastructure to the, or access to only certain Western companies? No. We take a position that Malaysia must remain competitive, neutral. We talk about centrality. We should be given the option to decide what is best from our country, be it from the United States or China or Europe. From our experience, and now that we are able to attract huge investments from all these big players, then we realize that we need to therefore move as a speed unprecedented before, for energy, water, and also the understanding, basic training and exposure, changing the curriculum in universities, in colleges, and schools. And so it is a multi-pronged attack. And changes are easier said than done, because there was also resistance from traditional manner education being taught and introduced. So I think thus far we're successful because we listen. I mean, we don't claim to have expertise. So the moment our friends from Microsoft, Google, or Huawei, or whatever comes, they say, look, you give some time, let us listen what you require. Now, okay, energy means green energy, which means green hydrogen, ammonia. So all these things are being done, and I'm proud to say that even within ASEAN, we're talking about an ASEAN grade that help, for example, create or provide more energy. And they were talking about now reassessing our entire policy on water conservation, because we have never seen the requirements of water except by these data centers. I don't know what they do with it, but then they've been asking for more water, more energy. So I think you're right, which means public policy and governments cannot assume that they can go on inviting and attracting these sort of investments without being prepared to undertake major reform initiatives which would allow these agencies or investments to come in. And the other question is, of course, the speed of approvals. Now, we are stuck with some bureaucratic rules, and we have to be able to coordinate, to bypass this. And then and a system is not monolithic. We have state governments, we have municipalities. Now, how do you cut across all this? I'm proud to say in the initial, I mean, Google would testify to that, or Microsoft, or Huawei, or whatever, NVIDIA, we are able to do it. I mean, once you do it with one particular major investor, then the word spread out. And now I think, and because we're fortunate in ASEAN, I mean, this region, ASEAN, happens to be one of the most peaceful in the world. Malaysia, for example, politically is very stable. And then the coordination, the work within the regional, sub-regional grouping is excellent, and that allows us, with more than 3 trillion combined GDP, now moving as one of the fastest growing economy in the world. So I think we should exploit this. But it's a very important point, Han, you just said. We have to listen. We have to understand that this form of government, or governance, global governance, of course, rid the country of corruption, abuse of power, this, to me, fundamental. But the way we do things is not to assume that political leadership has all the answers. These are new technologies, it's challenging, and it is something that demands our immediate reaction. And how do we do it? To tap on their expertise, you see, which normally great political leaders are quite reluctant to do, because we are supposed to be the smartest and able to solve the problems of the world, not realizing we have created too many problems. So I think in our approach, every time, in fact, I ask Zia, when are you coming? Because my plan is that he must sit down at least for 1 or 2 hours with our top players, the politicians, bureaucrats, academicians, experts, to be able to share his experience, and we would then use it. Because they can invest, and we're not going to pay honorarium for his speeches. And so far, we have been quite successful, and I think I take that account in all humility to acknowledge that the technology is changing so fast, which means government leaders have to accept and acknowledge that we have to also change the pace of a normal government bureaucracy to an extent that it is really competitive and attractive. And thus far, I must say, Alhamdulillah, thank God, we are able to achieve that, although, as the great George Bernard Shaw used to say, there's always room for improvement. To add just 2 major thrusts in our, for example, ASEAN for next year, I've been thinking. One is the ASEAN Grid, which means we'll benefit, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, we'll work together. Second is digitalization. Common digital agenda, legal framework, somewhat similar incentives, and we complement each other because some countries have expertise but no water, some have energy, but so we are keen to have this sort of collaboration, more effective.